Welcome back to the Reality Guys. I'm your host, Billy Blinks, joined as always by my co-host, Brian.
Good, everybody.
Excited to say that we're back to talk Temptation Island, Brian, one of our favorites going back from the beginning of the page with a new home, though. Temptation Island now on Netflix. So this is what we're going to be calling that Temptation Island Season 1. It's kind of interesting, Brian, but this is what we're going to go with. It's kind of what it's labeled there. There's semantics, right? But we're going with season one. Four new couples going to put their relationship to the ultimate test with the greatest reality TV host out there right now in the game, Mark L. Wahlberg. Shout out to a friend of the show. Got an interview with Mark from a few seasons back. Go check it out. Hoping to talk to him again. Brian, the before we dive into the whole thing, I do want to talk about the changes here with Netflix. Not a ton of with the format of the show itself, even some kind of little tweaks to the light and stuff, and we can talk about that with the Haven. But they dropped the whole season at once. They dropped the whole season at once, Brian, and I I, I enjoyed the season. Definitely really enjoyed Temptation Island, enjoyed the season. I wish we had had it weekly or even in batches. I want to kind of get your take on that.
Yeah, I agree. I watched this all day one, and it was just a lot. I mean, I still, like you said, I enjoyed it. Obviously, I'm always going to enjoy the show. Like I love Mark. We met some great people through this show when it was on USA. So I'm always going to have a special place in my heart. And it was one of the only shows that I probably watched reality before we started doing this page.
Yeah.
So it means a lot to me. This show, like my wife loves it. A lot of my friends love it. So like it's something like that I actually can connect with people that in my personal life that I don't really have with like watching like The Bachelor, things like that. But yeah, I think this would have been better in batches. I really do because I just think we could have talked more and just kind of like some of the moments like would have been a really good cliffhanger, and especially like what's going on with the one that's going on in Spain, and that
Yeah.
was weekly. And I just think that how many times did you see on the internet people talking about the show? I think like
Yeah.
there wasn't anything like that on this, but at least it could have been something. Like, it's just something maybe I'm hoping for season two because I think this could go a couple seasons. If they're rebranding completely season one, I think this could get at least two seasons.
No, they didn't buy this show to just do one season and
Yeah.
drop it. And I think the thing again with dropping 10 episodes though, it's going to take a week or so for people to kind of be caught up, right? There's only, unless you were lucky enough to get a screener, which shout out Netflix, we're gonna work on that because we'd have loved to have this last week. You know what I mean? We would have done individual episode reviews if we had it a week early. We could have just
Yeah.
sprinkled it in, right? But anyway, we want to get to the actual couples, right? So a little different than our normal type of review, Brian. We have a full season worth, so we don't have to really. We normally would speculate early on in our season reviews who's going to make it and who's not. We can't really do it. We can kind of comment on what we thought. I did have initial thoughts that I wrote down next to their names, so I can kind of now, funny enough, go back and look at my notes as we all go here and see if I was on the right track at all. All right, first one, Brian, that we were introduced to was Ashley and Grant.
Speaker.
The first thing says she has issues trusting him.
Yeah.
He cheated on her a month into the relationship, Brian, chased her to Greece to make up for it. It's led to mistrust, and resentment. He also has a daughter. I wrote here, I really hope she's not watching.
Not yet, but yeah, this guy sucked. Honestly, I didn't like him right off rip. I just didn't like the way he looked. Like just something about him was rubbing me the wrong way. And there's always somebody like that on the show where you can look at somebody and be like, nah, we're not gonna vibe here. And he was that person for me.
He was the guy, Brian, that you looked at and was like, that guy wants to be flirted with. That guy wants to
Mhm.
be made to feel like a big man. And this, again, a year and a half relationship, you're on Temptation Island. That means within the last 18 months, you've cheated on her once. That's been confirmed. There's not a lot of time there for the healing, Brian. One thing I will say about the season overall, the longest relationship, 3.5 years. None of these relationships I was really, which is crazy to say. I mean, and that one is the one that made it, obviously.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I was just gonna comment when you were done talking that very low level like relationship length because there was a couple ones we did. There was like, remember the guy from your town was gonna get married? Like they've been
They did
together
get
for a long
married.
time. Yeah, but like they've been together for a long time, and
They've been together almost like 10 years.
and I think that's what that's the only, another gripe I had with this is like I feel like the connection, like these some of these guys, and we'll get there. Man, some of these guys are so quick to cheat. It just reminded me of like some of the other shows
There
we watch.
was
I don't want.
no I thought about this conversation we were gonna have, Brian, and there was one there's the type of couples, right? The long-term ones, kind of the inevitable ones, we'll get to that. But there's usually one couple where one person drags the other person on and it backfires on them. There was none of that this
Yeah, that's
season.
true.
There was no overbearing girlfriend who brings a pretty nice guy in and he ends up getting all the girls because he's a nice guy and she overplayed her hand, or vice versa with the dude. None of that happened this season. There was pretty clear defined who the hero and villain of the relationships were, who the
Yeah,
victims and who the abusers were. And
yeah.
that's a great segue, Brian, into Brian with an O and Shantae. I think I know it was like Brione, whatever. I'm sorry. I kept getting it wrong. So I'm calling him Brian with an O.
Yeah. This guy was he was sneaky because he was sneaky because in the beginning I was like, oh, I like this guy. And he kind of slipped in the threesome coming out because in the beginning, and I thought it was a joke. And then we get to episode four, and then we're bouncing around here. But man, my like it completely changed. Like his villain arc started right there.
Dog,
And it was
this
just
dude was a villain arc from his origin story. They met at church. He was to give him financial advice, and he hooked up with her that night. Like
oh yeah, 'cause he said he got with her that night.
the
Yeah.
first thing they said about him, again, like I had their names in the first lines, and then later they get into them. I wrote Brian and Shante, 1 year relationship.
That's crazy.
Needs to learn how to control his sexual desires. It's the first thing they said.
I know, man.
Anyway, this guy is like he mind controlled her. He just like he imperious cursed her at the end there. He had a threesome on camera. I mean, we'll get to his logic because you've pointed out in our text some of his logic, which is outrageous. But this dude mind controlled, peer pressured her into leaving with him. I screamed, Brian.
Yeah.
I wanted to call the cops. I wanted to call protection for her.
And I was telling you pre-show, I was watching Love Never Lies, and the same kind of shit happened. But these people were married, but still not okay because this guy was just having sex with dudes. This guy right on this page was having sex with multiple women, and she was seeing it like with her eyes, and he wanted to do it again. He wanted to go with Angel and Amaya. Like he was like,
He wanted to get
I
the
want to
other
run it
two.
back with a new squad. And I was like, that to me. Are we just jumping around? Are we trying to build the people up? Are we gonna what do you want? You want to build the people up first, and then we'll go into like the tangents on them, or
No, no, tangent away.
because I want to just talk about the logic because, like I said, on episode four, when he after he had the threesome and he's like, "Yo, man, it's not as bad as having sex with one girl," and I was just like, "So you're telling me that I've done worse things than you, and like you're doing it on screen, and you can even tell when they and there was stuff that I love about the show is like when they play it back on the cameras. I noticed things I didn't notice before when he was like looking out the door when he was about to go in the bathroom. He's like looking around. He's like, "Does anybody see me here? Is it like you know what I mean?" Even though they know like that's one thing with Natalie. I know I'm jumping back to Grant, but like she's like, "Do you know they have night vision here?" And right, and it's just the moan. They really nailed the moans and like the skin on skin contact in this season.
They very much, they probably accentuated it maybe a little bit, but they made sure that we knew
What they
when
were
the
doing.
deed was going down. There was no gray area there, and like I said, I do appreciate that, Brian. Not from the perv standpoint, but just from the standpoint
You
that
know what
like
they did.
I didn't want any gray area, right? And I don't think we got a gray area with them at all.
And I'm just going back to that shower thing. The girls in the confessional room, they were like, "Hey, we're gonna try to set him up, right?" Isn't that they said that?
But they would set him up. I think they wanted to call his bluff there. I think they wanted to do it, and I think
Okay.
they said like, let's just see if he's a big talker. Let's see if he's going to put up. And again, whatever. I mean, they can do their thing. That's
Yeah,
what they
they're allowed to
for.
do it.
But like you said, he didn't feel like your point was right. He didn't feel bad right
Yeah,
away. He
he
wanted to
didn't
try
care.
to do it again, which is then funny because a few episodes later, he's like, "No, it's out of my system." Mark's like, "Oh,
Okay,
it's out of your system." He's like,
yeah.
"Yeah."
Yeah,
Mark does is a saint, man. You
yeah.
could the looks I'm sure there was a ton more looks Mark gave this guy, and I
He
need to
gave a
ask.
good look after the threesome. He's like, "That's not something I would," and he just like he did. I don't know, like that one gift where it's like the guy's like this, but he also what when he was just talking about just like that, and he after he did it, he's like, "Well, this is stuff that Chantel would never do." And it's like, yo, dude, you just sound like an asshole. Like, and it's also funny. Is there any other show that we've covered where there's multiple threesomes and it's like this universe? Because another guy did has sex in the shower in like season three. Do you remember
I know.
the dude
No,
that like the AI?
this
Like, yeah,
show
that dude.
gets after it, man. Like it really does. And so it was a shock, frankly, to see Brian. I mean, Brian literally had so much evidence against him. He had Amia right in the final,
Maya.
Amaya in the final two, literally telling him like, "I'm a girl's girl, you suck, dude,
Yeah,
and I'm outie. I'm not doing the date with you." He was going by himself, eating snow cones.
I liked Maya.
I did too. I did too. This show gets some quality people, like we said, and I wish there was, again, some other outlet and show where more Temptation Island cast people could end
Perfect
up.
match.
Yeah, I know, but more of them. Like I want more of them. That's what I'm saying. I just think they're really.
Yeah, because I mean, I thought all the women were very good looking.
No, I thought they were all great, and yeah. I mean, look, Brian. I need a reunion for them. I need to
There
just
needs to be a reunion for the show. Like, I would be pissed off if there's no reunion because the Temptation Islands, watch our old ones, they were always great. They were always
I
fun.
I realized we touched on Ashley and Grant, right? But we didn't really talk about their
Yeah,
end. Grant had Natalie. Was it Natasha or
it was
Natalie?
Natalie.
Natalie. So I liked her a lot. She's vibing with him the whole time, and
He's just what did she see in that guy? That's what
I
I'm.
don't
It kind
know.
of makes me look bad down on her a little bit. Same thing why I
She
look
even
down
said
on
he wasn't
Shantae.
her type. She even said like you normally wouldn't go with it, but he makes me feel safe. I'm like on
So
Temptation
she
Island,
likes Muppet. She likes Muppets.
dude. He does look like a Muppet.
He looks like Beaker.
He
And I
was. And
tweeted
I'm
that
not trying
first.
to
Anybody
to
watching this
dog
video, I
it.
tweeted that shit first. Anybody else you saw tweeting it, saw it from me.
Oh, is that the tweet you're talking
Yeah,
about?
I tweeted that shit first. I tweeted that at like 11 a.m.
Oh, I mean, I could show you what I tweeted the night John Cena turned heel a few weeks ago. I did a tweet and I said we got John Cena heel turn before GTA 6. I woke up the next morning and people tweeted it hours later and it was 10 million views and I
I
had
know it's
like
bullshit, man. I said it
40.
first.
And I'm like, that's bullshit. I did it first. Like I know I did.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm never gonna get credit for that's like a funny anyway,
Well,
tangent.
tune into these videos. That's the kind of humor you get here.
Hate Twitter. Um Yeah, so she was done with him off the jump, and I respect the hell out of that. And frankly, I was surprised that she progressed with Danny as much as she
Same.
did,
Same. I thought it was just like she was using him.
which is fine, and he would have been
No,
fine with
that
it.
was all good. I'm surprised they left together.
I mean, they definitely, I don't think they are. I would be surprised to
No,
find
no,
out that they
definitely
are
not.
together, but like good on him if he like got to hang out with her a little bit more, or like whatever. Or if she, frankly, I think she just did it to stick it to him,
Yeah,
honestly.
and you know what?
I think it was
Honestly,
a
I'm not
power
mad
move.
about it. That guy sucked. He's no looker.
Right,
He's
not
like over
Danny.
here, like, and he's just got he's like 5 second eyes, where people come in and just like, I was just looking at him. I was like, what? And again, it's just like looking down now. Like, why are you with this guy? Crazy.
This is the thing though, Brian, like, and I said my wife asked me about this. So like when she saw me watching it like right after work before she had to go to her brother's like thing, and she was like, she made a comment to the fact that like I can't, why are these people like even together, blah blah blah. And I looked and I was like, besides, I said two things. One, I mentioned these relationships are all like 2 years old. I
Yes.
said, secondly, they're all like 22 years old,
Yeah.
23. I had plenty of relationships like that, like for like a year and a half, 2 years that were not worth it, right? And like, I think about it for a second. I go, yeah, it's kind of like par for the course, and that's why it's funny for Mark now. Even I would want to talk to Mark about this now, like as, not in the weird way, but like as he gets older now, and the contestants are like younger. Like the contestants like are not like we've had people more in like their 30s and stuff before. We had nobody really like that for the most part, right? Like
So
they
the
were
youngest was 26.
Okay, it's still
That's
pretty young.
Brian with an O. And then Taylor was 30.
Some of the singles were young. I
Yeah, the
know.
singles were the women were young. The guys
And
were
Natalie was 22.
yeah, there was a couple 22. She was 23. There was two 22s on the guy side, but everyone else for the most part was like 30. There was one dude that was
Oh, good.
36.
They just came off younger than me. Maybe it's just because of all the singles, frankly,
Which
but
is
they
also
came off
like
younger than me.
it also is and like jumping back, like what the girls need to do to like get the guys' attention is a lot different from what the guys need to do. Like the guys need to be there for them and talk to them and I don't think a lot of these girls are probably like the way they are, but they're like trying to get attention and they need to be like, oh, I will suck your neck for some attention here.
I'll
And the guys
body paint you with my
yeah,
boobs.
yeah, with my ass. And then like the guys are like, "Oh, well, tell me about your fire, your bonfire. Like, do you need to talk about it?" And they're like, "No, we'll talk later." Oh, we'll talk later. It's just like a totally different vibe. And then
That's a really great point, Brian. You should bring that up to Mark.
I will. I mean, it's just
That's a
like
great point. I never thought of that
we
aspect of
just
like
watch
what
because
the
we were
women have to do
binging.
versus the men.
Just because we
Like,
were binging it. It's just like what the guy and it's nothing. I have no problem with what the girls are doing. Like you're on TV, like you're
they
trying to
get
get the
put in
guys'
that
attention.
position.
It's just like what these guys, and especially when you got three dogs over there, like
There were
acting
some
dogs.
dog. The other three dudes besides our boy, what's his name, Lino. He was
Lena,
the only nice, normal, committed dude. The other three, you're talking Grant,
dogs, dogs.
dog, Brian, dog. And then we were gonna let's go to him next. Like, look, shout out Alexa and Lino. You guys were great, really nice. The curse of being really nice and stable and being in this binge situations, I got really nothing to say. Then I hope you're having a wonderful life.
There's always one couple like that. Or like they they actually like kind of get what they like their bonfires are always like the ones when they're like mental and like
Yeah.
intellectual like complaints, that's when it's like oh like yeah I do feel for her and like you could tell they were growing on each bonfire, you know what I mean, like he's like I am not feeling like I'm not good, I wasn't the second choice. And then
Yeah,
we go to
it's
Tyler.
nice.
Yeah, and then we
It's
go to Tyler. The
great.
guy can't put the
Great.
like Taylor's like, well, he's not putting the seat up, and like, so like, I need to dump him because he's not putting the toilet seat up. I was like, okay, like, you
Yeah.
don't have anything better than that when you're talking shit on this guy?
This is not a show where we're rooting for everyone to not make it. Like we want most of the couples, frankly, to make it if they are good people. But like we don't want Grant to make it. I
No,
don't want
no,
Brio to make it. I wanted Shantae to escape,
no. She
and
she can't escape with
now
others.
she's stuck. She's stuck in his clutches. That's why I need the reunion. But let's talk Tyler and Taylor. 2.5 year relationship, Brian. Uh, they met a lot of resistance in their relationship early on, Brian, and they referred to Temptation Island as their Hail Mary. I just wrote, oh boy. I think if you're using Temptation Island as your
Yeah,
Hail Mary, that ball's getting picked off.
get picked off and run back.
Yeah, it's a pick six. They met at a bar in Nashville when she was bartending while he was still with his ex-wife. They dated 4 months after they were separated. Zero time in between that. He left his job to become a model. Doesn't want to go back and get a normal job, and it's pissing her off. Oh, they were so incompatible, Brian.
Yeah, this is one of those couples where like they act like I think they're good, but they're using this excuse to break up.
Yeah, no, this seemed like an arranged breakup. She was done with him. He crossed the barrier in like episode 1.5. He didn't even like kiss anybody yet. He just flirted, touched. They were sitting in the bed or whatever. That was it. She was
Oh,
like,
that's when they were in the
done.
bed. Yeah.
Done. It was my ex-boyfriend. I was like, whoa. I
Yeah,
mean,
like so much proclamation of like, I'm single. Let's go. They came after the bonfire.
dating.
They came
Yeah,
after the
that was like
bonfire. They're
what's her
like,
face?
I'm
Like,
single.
no, the best one of that was Ashley. She literally sat the two dudes down and said, like, compete for
Yeah,
me.
compete for me. You two.
Kill for
What?
kill for me. Um, yeah, look, Brian, I thought it was a great season
Let's talk the
overall.
singles. We want to talk the singles?
Yeah, I mean, we talked to the singles. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. So, because we had some alumni for the reality
Oh
guys.
yeah, yeah, I wrote that down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We had some alumni. We had one Mia, 27. She was from FY Island season two. And I'll tell you what, I didn't know anything about any of the cast on the show. I didn't look anything up just because we've been so busy and things like that. So it was nice to see these people walk in. I looked at her. I was like, I know her. I know her. And then the big one for me, man, was Dan
Good
Hunter,
lord.
man, the courtship coming. I saw that. I saw his face in the background, and I was like, I know that motherfucker. I know that motherfucker right there. I've seen that guy before. What do they call them in the courtship?
The
Master
suitors?
Hunter or like
Yeah, Master. There's like Master Daniel or like
yeah.
Master Daniel.
Yeah, well, whatever. But and it's funny because like some people have been tweeting about the courtship because like I guess like one of the websites like tweets clips about shows is like doing that show currently. So like tons of if you search the hashtag courtship, there's a
Yeah.
ton of like recent videos. But before that, the only videos were probably us covering the show.
So hey, maybe we'll get some courtship love.
Dude, it wasn't a bad show. I mean, for a
Miss
while,
Remy.
yeah, Miss Remy, it wasn't a bad show. And if anybody is wondering, like you should watch it, check it out. I think it's on Hulu or something like that.
Yeah,
Pretty
and
sure it's
or
Hulu.
just check out our reviews of it. We
Yeah,
have a
it was
playlist.
not a bad show. It was not. It was different. That's why we enjoyed it. But funny to see him. He got like zero screen time. Like,
But he made the final eight.
yeah.
Dude,
Did
did he
he
speak a single word?
did he make he
Bro, he was there like the end. He was in that like
yeah, he
final
was, yeah.
spy. He was the short king
Yeah.
standing there. He was hugging him up and all at the end. I was
Yeah.
cracking up. I was like,
Yeah.
this dude,
He's
I literally was texting you again. I had my long chain going. I went, Brian, this guy's still here.
not a single confessional.
Not a single confessional, Brian. Not a single date. Not a
Yep.
single line. And this dude probably was there for like 3 weeks. He just got to
He's got
hang out.
game. He's got game.
Dude, shout out, dude. Man, I now, frankly, I'm gonna find that dude on Instagram. I need him. He's like one of the only people that's been on. He might be the only guy. 3 different shows. That's like only up there with like maybe like Housewives or Vanderpump type people.
Yeah.
Like,
Katie Thurston was on two.
and she wasn't on a third thing.
No. Um,
Tom Sandoval, two things.
we didn't cover Grocery Store Joe. Like he was on Goat. And we didn't watch the original
Schwartz
Batch.
was on 2 things. You know, we've
Schwartz
had
was on
surprises.
three. He was on Vanderpump, Winter House, and Mars.
Okay, yeah, he was on Winter House. You're right. So that's three. Tom Schwartz.
But like I'm talking shows that we actually covered. Like
No, I know. No, I'm thinking.
he's the dude right now. He's like the we need a couple more stones in a glove, and we got the Dan Hunter glove. Like
I know we're gonna find Dan Hunter on Instagram. I'm gonna shoot a DM. We got to shoot it from the account and be like, dude, shout out, Dan. I've seen you on a few shows you covered. Love to have you come on and just talk about all of
they
them.
have a collective like 2 hours of FaceTime we've covered.
I know we need to talk. We got to talk to the Lord Dan Hunter now.
Yeah,
We'll reach out, people. We got you.
he's like
Yeah. Also, yeah. Mia too she was also on F Girl, wasn't she?
um,
Was
what's
she?
your girl? Yeah, she went.
She was in one of the F Girls, I thought.
I mean, she was, but like, I
Yeah.
kind of consider that the same.
Well, I mean, she was on 2 seasons, so
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
at
she
least
was an F girl. You're right.
we've had some time with her. She had a little bit of the drama in the beginning. She got kind of friend zoned, but she ended up making it pretty far.
In F girl.
Finally,
In this one, no, she went home. She was one of the first limbs.
not finally. I mean, I mean, she had a pretty good showing. I mean, like she had like
She
good,
had a lot of, she showed a lot, but I think she was like kind of being like, she didn't take the elimination well, I think.
which I loved.
And
I
like,
love that. Why would you want?
I just love watching Mark in these situations because like, he's not like any other host where just like when I didn't think like the women, I don't know if they watch the shows, but like when he was trying to comfort them, I was like, this is why I like this dude. Like, you don't get that from some of the other, like
I just think we needed more Mark, frankly. I don't think we got enough Mark this season,
the,
especially when you're binging it. I was like, we did not get enough Mark screen time. And I know it's not about Mark, but I just want a little bit more Mark.
But
So
and one thing I will say is like I didn't really love where the video screen was on the bonfire because they'd be like looking at a screen and it looked like they were just staring into nothing.
they're staring at a rock on the ground.
And then what
That's
did you
a
think
good
of the
point. I'm
temp?
gonna ask him. That's a
What
good
do you
time
think
to
of the
ask.
Haven? Because that's like the kind of the big like
We
addition.
got to get to the Haven. We got to get to the Haven. It's
So
a
it's just like
low.
a sex tent. That's all it was. That's
I
all
was
it
about to make the
was.
reference about the Lock Haven and Brian's sextet.
That's all it
It's a
was.
sextet. Boogie, boogie, boogie.
Like they're like, oh, and I remember what Mark saying. There's a the Haven out there, and there's no video in there, but we can catch everything you're doing.
I
Lip
did like the light
smacking.
better than last season, where this time they're just flashing red everywhere all over the house instead of like
This
a
one was
little
like,
palantir.
this is one where they needed for like the F-Boy Island guys that snuck out. It's like a prison alarm. How do you sleep through that?
But I said it was messed up that the thing they didn't give them the privacy tent until someone had done the deed. I was like, it's literally like it had to get unlocked. They had it for like a week ostensibly for like 2 episodes, and then it was gone. That's very funny. They just
Their
did
character
people
level
very
wasn't high
dirty.
enough. Couldn't open the door. I mean, I don't know what else really to talk about. I mean, it's just like kind of that's the kind of the shitty part about like it being like you said, like all of it at once. Like we had some new people come in, they barely made an impact. Like the four
Yeah,
guys.
like I would want to talk about the individual segments, right? There was a lot of things that I liked, certain challenges, I liked certain things. I liked when they went to the restaurant. I thought even some of the dates were pretty good, but frankly, the, I feel, and again, I think this is something that is a fair criticism, is that, this will end up being like, say, like a 30-ish minute review. But if we had reviewed all 10 episodes, you probably would have gotten at least double the amount of like commentary from some people like ourselves, and you may hate us or like whatever. But overall, like, unless you had early access or are willing to wait like over a week to get all the episode reviews, I think it does the show a disservice a little bit. And I'm not here to go after Netflix 'cause I'm trying to be friends with Netflix now, but like I think that hopefully the viewership warrants it and the commentary, so people tweet about it, and
Yeah.
let's like I said, let's push for a review, ask for it, even if they haven't done one yet. Do a Zoom one. Like just
They
let's get.
need to they need to. I'll check the thing in a few days. If there's gotta be one, man. They need to do it, man. Those are some of the best ones that we ever watched. They were not messing around on those. And I thought Mark was a good host on it. Like, I think they will. I really think they will. They better. I'm like second guessing myself. But just going back to what you said about um, it being dropped at once, like you said, we could talk about a lot more because so many things happen, but then they just completely are done with because so and so had a threesome, or like, oh, they didn't end up together. Like, what would they have done? Like the video messages, like the how dumb the guys were who did send video messages, like how they didn't like acknowledge anything they did, like just stuff like that. Like we didn't even talk about it because it just they're not even together. So it doesn't what does it really even matter? Because they just stayed true to who they were.
I read an article from Cosmopolitan. There is no confirmation of a reunion, which they literally, in their words, they said, which, if we're being honest, is wild.
That they're
Like they're
not
like,
gonna have one.
well, not there's no confirmation that there is or isn't, but usually you would know. Like it would already be like a given thing, right? So the fact that that means to me things they haven't filmed one yet. I
Yeah,
like why be secretive about that?
right. That's disappointing.
We'll ask. We will ask. Well, we may not get an answer we like, but we'll ask. Um, Overall, again, I enjoyed the season. Not the best season of all time. Not definitely not the worst season. And I think a good first start here for Netflix. And I'm hoping, like you said, Brian, that this is on a normal, regular cadence now. Don't want to wait another couple years for Temptation Island for sure.
Like I
Make
yeah,
what?
I'm just gonna make a joke about Survivor. Like I wouldn't mind if Mark just lived wherever they are and just starts pumping these seasons out.
I think it's Hawaii. It's not a
He
bad
needs
place
to
to
get a
live.
compound there and just start pumping them out like Jeff.
Talk to me about Jeff. If you are a Survivor fan, we are covering Survivor 48. We just got our, I think it was what, week 3, 4 review
Great,
out.
great.
Yeah, week 3 we just got out yesterday. Check out all the other shows we're covering. Tons of playlists. Hit the notification bell. You won't miss a thing. But keep an eye out. More Temptation Island content coming in the coming weeks. Just keep an eye out for our socials. But until next time, for myself and Brian, thank you so much for watching. Peace.